Hi, and welcome to Off Script with Sam Monk. We want to talk about what's worked, what hasn't, and leadership lessons. And today we've got something super special for you. We've got a Shout, Off Script Shout special. I got it out finally.
Yeah, there you go.
And Sam, welcome. We want to talk about Shout conference today. And for people that don't know what Shout is, why don't you give us, you were there right at the start, it was your vision. So why don't you talk about the origin story? I figure if Wolverine can have an origin story, Shout needs an origin story. So what do you tell us about Shout and what happened and where it started?
Well, the background to it is, on many levels, just people coming together and wanting to have an encounter with God. And there's so much you can do on a Sunday service. I only can do so much on a Sunday service, but getting people in the same room over several days creates a hunger, expectation, and just right from the first meeting in the upper theatre. It was originally a conference just for young people.
So when you say the upper theatre, that's the upper theatre of the Mercury Theatre. So how many seats does the upper theatre have?
Well, I think we managed to squeeze close on 150 in there.
Right. With about 120 seats, no doubt, probably.
Yeah. And a few chairs around the sides.
Right.
Yeah, back when there wasn't as much compliance as there is today. But yeah, just spending a couple of days together, really seeking God, and bringing in people naturally who can help us all go to another level in God. And we often say church is a whole lot of friends challenging one another to go higher in God. And so it's just saying, let's take these days to dig deeper and really seek God for the next season of our life.
So talk about that, because it is different to a Sunday.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, it's a lot of cost. But what was it about it that you thought we need to create a different space? Because we have Sundays, we've got all the other different spaces. But what was it that you felt you needed to create something different? What was it about that was unique?
Well, I think in a conference setting, there's a building on top of every session, and sometimes you're operating week to week, and just being able to go from day to day creates a momentum in the spirit. And so, that's what often the Israelites would do, is they'd down tools, they'd travel, and it wasn't just actually what they were going to, but it was the journey there that actually created expectation. The songs of ascent were on their way, were sung on the way to the event, and it created that sense of expectation and an encounter and celebration. We called it Shout because we want to give expression to what's within us, and so often that's limited or contained. And so if we can, really just give God, unhindered praise, that's the environment we wanted to create, just where people could also, discover their call and their destiny.
And I guess anecdotally over the years, so many testimonies have come from Shout. I can still think of so many friends of mine that were like, man, at Shout God did this, and the call of God came upon my life in that environment. Businesses were started in Shout. So, and I don't know, are those the things that you saw? Like, are those, is it this thing in your wildest dreams? Could you imagine if these things could have happened at this?
It's gone above and beyond, but that was the whole environment, is to create a prophetic atmosphere,
right,
where people could hear from God, encounter God, and where they could get clarity, or whether God could burst something new in their life, and we've seen that time and time again. As I said, churches being planted, but new businesses. I'm sure there's been some people meet their future life partner at Shout as well.
Oh, I think that has happened actually. As well.
There's been a proposal.
There's been a proposal.
There has been a proposal at Shout, and so
you never know. You never know.
Yeah. So it originally started off as just a teenage youth thing, but what started happening is people started hearing the testimonies. And then our more mature people, which is PC for older.
It's pretty much, let's be honest, that's us now, I suppose.
Yeah, that's older. Just caught wind of what God was doing, and they said, how can we serve the next generation? They came in and wanted to serve, and just from there, it morphed from being a purely youth environment to, a church conference.
That's cool. That's cool. And I love that because sometimes we find, even in a local church setting, parents desperately want their kids to be connected to church, connected to God, and they would go to any length, even if it's not their expression. And I think sometimes people come in and then they find out as their kids start loving God that they go, this is for us as well. And we never realize that this is something that we love too, right? And I think that's Shout on another level, isn't it?
Yeah, and just through serving in that environment, and that's been the heart, right from the beginning of Shout is just to serve one another and create a platform so the people in our world can encounter Jesus. And naturally today, where we are today, it takes a lot of volunteers to run the conference, but the heart of that was instilled back from a group of more mature believers just going, hey, we see what God's doing and we don't want this to be limited. We want to come in behind this. We want to serve it. And so that was there from the early days of Shout.
So I guess final question on this, because we've got 3 parts to this and I don't want to get ahead of myself. However, I do want to ask the question, what's one thing that, because Shout has grown, and we're going to talk about this in the kind of coming podcast, but as it's grown, what's one thing that you want to remain the same, I guess, at Shout? Like, what's the one thing that you go, as it grows and it gets bigger, what's the one thing that you don't want to change, I guess, about that Shout environment?
I'd say a prophetic encounter space that's from day dot, that's been the atmosphere that people have walked into, where they can sense God's presence. And, in that place, God does miracles. God does beyond what any person can do. And, I know today you can get a lot of leadership teaching. And, yes, there is leadership teaching at Shout. And there's other, workshop-streamed environments. But what we want running through every aspect of Shout is just that prophetic encounter space, because I believe that's the thing that brings transformation or sets the course of a new journey that sometimes God wants people to go on. It's almost a catalytic moment.
And that's where I guess the prophetic thing goes beyond, because again, over the years, a lot of people have said, man, I was serving in a lot of the sessions, but God spoke to me just as much when I was serving in a kids environment or on the doors, welcoming, as it did being in the midst of the mosh pit or in a worship environment or whatever. And that prophetic thing, it sort of spreads into every environment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you can't quite put your finger on it. You just know it's, you know what I mean? You know it's there.
Well, and that's why, now we've got kids, we've got a kids stream, a youth stream, a worship stream, a leadership stream. And the testimonies back from, kids, from the kids ministry is, man, kids baptized in the Holy Spirit, coming alive in their faith, which then, they go home, different to how they came in. Yeah,
that's amazing. So I guess any other comments around, those early years you talked about not being kind of speaker-led, because that's often the thing, isn't it? Oh, who have you got speaking?
Yeah.
But we don't get those questions, and we never really had those questions asked of us, like who's speaking. So what is it about the speaker? You said the speaker is great to have, but they don't always.
Well, I believe, the foundation of everything we do should be relationship with God and relationship with one another. And so Shout has always had that family atmosphere. It's like, hey, we're just a big family reunion. Let's get all together, but let's center our attention on Jesus. And so it is a party. Yeah. This is you could sing the song of that, Jake, if you want it.
No, don't give me an opportunity, man.
But it's a party. But through the process of celebration, I think we bring people into that environment, and it's in that environment their gifts are able to function. And in some places at another level, just because the environment draws out what's in them. And I've preached in many different places, and where there's an environment of expectation and honor, you can preach one sermon in one place, and you can preach that same message in a different place and have 2 different responses. But one thing we've found at Shout, because it is built, its foundations are in relationship, that's centered on Jesus, you know, God honors that faith, the environment. You know, I believe God honors the journey that people go on to even get to Shout. I think, you know, our Tongan church, you know, where the average wage is very low, you know, having over 100 people at Shout.
Amazing, yeah.
And that faith journey that they go on, because they want to have an encounter with God, and they come in with a level of expectation. And because of that expectation, the faith in the room, God really honors that, and he does incredible things. That's
really special, though, because again, it is that sort of, you know, pilgrimage is kind of an old-fashioned word now, but it is that pilgrimage to, it's the guys that jump in vans and have the conversations along the way. And so Shout starts much before the first opening night. We kind of look at the opener and the things like that, but really the conversations have already been taking place. They take place in hallways, they take place on the ride home, they take place having lunch at McDonald's or whatever that looks like, don't they? And it's a really special thing.
And even the trip home afterwards, so it goes beyond the closing night, because the conversations just, you know, go far and beyond.
Yeah. And that's the nature of that prophetic environment. You want people to take something away where they know, man, something in my heart has changed. I counted maybe a cost to be here, but when you do that, God really honors it. Yeah. And I think people go away changed, and you want that to be, as you said, that kind of catalytic moment for them to go, right, now I feel like I've got a clearer call about what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, I think also you want to be able to create a space that's bigger than what you're normally in. Often say we've got to give people a picture of what the future could look like. And, you know, or a glimpse of the future now. Yeah. And so, you know, for us moving from the upper theatre to the downstairs of the Mercury Theatre, the bigger theatre, seeing that space filled, then I think we're in the Aotea Centre in the town hall. And, you know, that then served us as a church where we could say, hey, maybe we could meet in the town hall on a regular basis.
Yeah, cool.
And it was like a glimpse of the future now.
Great.
And, you know, I think there's a lot of things in society that are trying to minimize the impact of the church or marginalize it and put it on the edge of society. But I believe the church does need to gather together, and there needs to be points. And, you know, especially now that we've got many locations and you know, with the few we had back in the origins,
it
was just important to get together, because encouragement comes from that as well. It's like, oh man,
people need it, They need coming together. They're coming together,
and especially in the current environment we're in today, there's importance in gathering together, coming together, and I think the enemy knows the power of it, so he wants to do everything he can to hinder it as well. And that's why we're so passionate about, hey, whatever it takes to get people in that room, let's do it.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, that's cool. That was Off Script with Sam Monk, Shout Special Edition. We've got a couple more coming. I hope that blesses you, and stay tuned for episode 2 of our Shout Special.